Hi guys, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my November wrap-up. November was a busy month. It's the end of semester. There's Thanksgiving. I'm going home for the semester. Just a lot of things going on. You know, like my makeup. There's a lot of things going on. I don't know why I decided to do an 80s clown inspired look, but we'll go with it. Anyway, let's get into what I read this month. Like I've kind of alluded, I didn't get a lot done. I didn't get everything that I wanted to read done, but I did still read some books, which is exciting, but I'm still hoping that I can do better next month. So two of the books that I read this month were Bunny by Mona Awad and Follow Me to the Ground by Sue Rainsford. The reason I'm discussing these books together is because I'm doing a secret TBR secret vlog video discussing both of these books, so I don't really want to disclose my thoughts on these because I have a whole video dedicated to these books coming out hopefully soon. I still have to read two other books for this TBR challenge, so yeah, that's taking a lot longer than I thought it would. You know, I decided at the end of the semester when I have lots of reading and schoolwork and writing to do that it would be great to do a lot of reading too, and obviously it didn't work out. But anyway, those two book reviews, discussions, vlog thing will be coming out in the future, so if you are interested in my thoughts, definitely wait for that. As far as school reading this month, I had 3 books that I had to read, one of which I had already read a previous month, so I don't need to discuss that. Didn't read it this month. But the other 2 books that I had to read for my class this month, When a Man Falls from the Sky by Arima, Leslie Nikki Arima, I believe. I'm pulling this out of my head. I should be looking at something. I had to leave that book at school because I am obviously traveling back from my apartment to my home where I will be for the next month and a half. It is a short story collection. Most of the short stories are contemporary type stories. There's some more experimental stuff in there, some more speculative stuff in there. My favorite stories happen to be the more speculative ones, especially, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like the Hair Baby story, something about going home. Hair Baby story. Amazing. Loved it. A lot of the stories take place in Nigeria or in America with Nigerian characters, and I really love this story collection. I think a lot of the stories were just really strong. Even the ones that I personally didn't connect with, I thought were really well done. There's a lot of short stories in here. A lot of them pack a punch even though they're shorter. It ended up being one of my favorite short story collections that I read for that class. I just thought it was really poignant and just good. It was just a good collection, and so I highly, highly recommend. And then the next short story collection I read for that class was Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This is the book that I had to give a presentation on, and again, this is a short story collection. All of the short stories in here are speculative in some nature. Carmen Maria Machado uses a lot of speculative, fabulous, and horror elements in her stories, and I really appreciate these stories. I read The Husband's Stitch a year ago and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with her writing and I've wanted to read this collection ever since, and this did not disappoint. This is up my alley. It's weird, it's literary, it's speculative. Some of the stories make me mad and I have to think about them. I'm super new to the horror genre. A lot of horror doesn't really interest me, but horror written by, you know, sapphic lesbian ladies does interest me, especially this literary take on stuff, and it has me intrigued to read more of this genre. I'm already in the speculative, sci-fi, fabulous camp, and now I'm very interested in what horror has to offer, especially in a literary lens. A lot of people were reading this on BookTube when it came out, and it definitely had mixed reviews. It just didn't work for a lot of people. You know, as a literature student, as a creative writing student who's, you know, into the fussy literary side of fiction, this was just, it was up my alley. I liked it. I liked it a lot. There were just so many stories in here that just, they were so great and they hit on so many themes that I love this. It was so good. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I gave the Arima collection a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Both of these really, really excellent, and this might be my favorite collection that I read of the collections we read this year. In that class we read a lot of really strong collections. I pretty much loved almost everything we read in that class, but yes, this is a strong contender for favorite. The next book I read is a graphic novel, and that is Fence Volume 4. This apparently came out in like July, and I had no idea it came out. Nobody told me. I have a hair comb in, but it doesn't want to go in correctly, so I'm just gonna take it out. Anyway, getting back to Fence. If you don't know what Fence is, this is a graphic novel. It's about a fencing team. It was originally done in 12 single issues and 3 books like this. Because it was a new comic, it wasn't guaranteed like a long run time. Like it was only guaranteed those first 3 comic editions that we got. And so it took like a year or a year and a half to get another comic after it became so popular. So I've been waiting on this for a very long time. It is basically a sports anime but gayer. Sports animes is one of my favorite genres. Queer literature, one of my favorite genres. Combination of which makes it perfect. I love all the characters in here. I love their interactions, their relationships. This picks up right where the 3rd one left off. It's getting more and more intense, and I can't wait to see the team come together as a team and beat their rivals. Maybe it's cliche, maybe it's the same as every other sports anime, but I'm into it. I don't care. I like it a lot, and I gave 4 stars, I believe. I think there were like a little bit of pacing issues where we just needed a couple more little like scenes or like slides or whatever, just like where there's some missing action that made it like hard to read while it was happening. But overall, I'm so excited for the return of this. Thank you so much. And then the last thing I read which was an actual book, and that was Circe by Madeline Miller. Like I said at the beginning of this video, the month kind of just got away from me. What I was planning for this wrap up was to do something a little bit more ingenuitive, a little bit more creative and inventive for my wrap up, do more something aesthetic to like really capture like the feelings and the aesthetics of the books I was reading, to not just do reviews and wrap ups, to make them a little bit more interesting. But I did end up filming a little bit of me journaling a journal page when I was finishing up reading Circe, so I'm going to overlay some of that video right now and just kind of give you a sneak peek of maybe what I hope to do for wrap-ups in the future. So Circe by Madeline Miller is a Greek-inspired story. It is the Greek myths retold. Circe is a young goddess nymph character who is the daughter of Helio, who is a powerful god titan, and because of this, Helio and Circe, his daughter, are kind of in this contentious relationship with the Greek pantheon gods like Zeus and stuff because of the war with the Titans and the Greek gods. And it kind of just goes through the history of Greek myth. It goes through basically most of the famous stories, most of the famous heroes, but it's told from the eyes of Circe, who is this, you know, young goddess who at the beginning of the story is very naive and just kind of has bad relationships with, you know, her family, with the outside world, because she's not really understood, and because to a lot of gods she's considered ugly because she looks and sounds very mortal. And so she has really interesting relationships with different Greek characters. Her experiences, her drama is very hard to read in some sections. There is sexual assault, trigger warnings for that. But I really loved the story she told. I loved what this said about Greek myth and just like how we think of Greek myth, how we think of stories, how we tell stories, who gets to have a story told about them. There was just so much about Circe that I ended up really loving. I gave this like a 4.5 stars again. Just Madeline Miller is so good at crafting stories around fables that we know and love, and just exploring them in really complex ways that make them so modern to our own times and problems. I will read anything that Madeline Miller writes. If you like Madeline Miller, I would definitely suggest the musical Hadestown. I think Hadestown the musical explores Greek myths in a similar way, modernizing them for our times, making you care about these characters, and vice versa. If you love the musical Hadestown, definitely try Madeline Miller. I think you will really enjoy her. The thing I love about Madeline Miller's stories, especially Circe, is that she takes Greek myths and modernizes them. What makes them modern is that she explores our contemporary problems through these myths. For me, at least, I was a big, huge Greek nerd growing up, a huge, like, myth nerd in general. I loved mythology and stories like this, but a lot of times I had a really hard time relating to some of the characters and their emotions and feelings because the historical, cultural context is different, and the kind of questions that ancient Greece was exploring are a lot different than questions we explore today. Like Orpheus, it's really hard to relate to this character that just makes a mistake at the end of his story because, you know, I question, like, why would he even make this mistake in the first place? Like, why couldn't he just listen? And what Madeline Miller does is she complicates these questions and she, you know, raises the stakes and makes them contemporary, so it's asking questions about our own time, complicating things in ways that make sense for our humanity and how we understand the world today, which is just so difficult to do. Maybe I'm not making sense, but myths aren't universal. The way that we think about the world, the way we think about different concepts like love and family, they change over time, and people don't even really realize that. So a lot of times, a lot of different histories, a lot of different cultures are really hard to relate to because we have a different understanding. You know, we come from different cultures, we come from different religions. I don't think Madeline Miller is westernizing like Greek myth or anything, but she's just making it more contemporary, more understandable for our time, and she explores issues that are current to our time through these old fables, which I just find so amazing. But yeah, that's some of the reasons why I like Madeline Miller. I think she's really good about keeping the feeling of the myth, the atmosphere of the myth. The way she tells stories, it feels very old in a way. Instead of these connections, these plot lines, these interweaving things, her stories are a little bit looser. They feel more like a Greek poem when you read them. They kind of have a vignette style. I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like she acknowledges the culture that these stories come from. She understands them. She's well researched, but she's still able to modernize them. That's kind of some of my feelings about Circe. I really, really love this. It wasn't quite a perfect read for me, but I do love it. I do love it a lot. With that done, those are all the books that I read this month. Again, not a lot. Look forward to that video where I talk about Bunny and Follow Me to the Ground. I have some more fun TBRs planned in the future, so hopefully, you know, stick with me for that if you're interested. I'm going to be busy the next couple months, this next year, because I have my graduate thesis coming out, and I'm working on all of that during the break, but there's so many books I want to read, and I'm just so excited to read right now because there's just so much good stuff out there. But yes, let me know what you read this month down in the comments. I would love to hear about it. If you have any thoughts, feelings about some of the books I read, I'd love to know that as well. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.